Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into a truly fascinating, deeply clinical, and honestly highly provocative perspective on modern labor. Today, we're unpacking the worldview of YouTuber Tom Scrylius. He argues something pretty radical. The modern workplace isn't just mentally tiring, it extracts a devastating, measurable, psychosomatic toll on our actual biology. We're going to explore a concept he calls the biological ledger. Basically, it's how our nervous systems keep a ruthless, perfectly accurate score of the toxic environments we force ourselves into every single day.
To kick things off, I want you to picture an alien anthropologist dropping down to observe our society. They look at us and see millions of people experiencing tight shoulders, chronic insomnia, and profound gut knots every single Sunday evening. Now, society tells us, oh, that's just normal stress, right? The basic price of admission for being a responsible adult. But Skrylo asks a radically different question. What if these physical reactions aren't just stress? What if they're actually vital warning signals from our enteric nervous system, the literal brain in our gut? What if your body isn't malfunctioning at all, but is instead staging a completely logical, full-scale biological rebellion against an unnatural environment?
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The chronology of dread. To really understand this biological protest, Scrylius maps out exactly how systemic stress unfolds over a standard weekend. And if we walk through this chronological arc of weekend anxiety, you can see just how fleeting our recovery actually is. Saturday is mostly spent frantically trying to recover your energy and, catch up on household chores. By Sunday morning, you get this brief, beautiful illusion of freedom. But then, and I'm sure many of you know this feeling, right around 3 p.m. on Sunday, a quiet panic settles in. This Sunday afternoon dread isn't just sadness, it's your physical body bracing for a systemic clash. By Monday at 8 a.m., your brain is effectively on fire. You're thrust into a primal fight or flight response just to board a commuter bus or walk into an office building. Scrylius argues that this continuous cycle of dread means the standard 40-hour workweek is actually a mathematical illusion. Think about it. When you account for the commute, the meal prep, the exhausted weekend recovery, and that immense psychological spillover, surviving those 40 hours actually consumes more like 60 hours of your life. It eats up vast amounts of psychological bandwidth, transforming the vast majority of your waking existence into a state of mere survival, where you're just holding your breath, waiting for the oxygen of Friday night.
Section 2. The biological ledger. Let's move into the medical diagnostic portion of his analysis. Scrylius suggests that the body is absolutely not silent during this survival mode. It keeps an incredibly accurate biological ledger of this systemic misalignment. When a worker ends up in the emergency room with totally unexplainable physical symptoms, modern medicine usually treats it as a mechanical failure of the individual. Fix the part, right? But Scrylius asks us to completely reframe this. Is a breakdown actually a deeply logical protest against a soul-crushing environment? Your body is an intelligent system. It might just be accurately responding to a pathogen. And in this case, the pathogen is the structure of the work itself. The visceral, physical symptoms of this exposure are severe. Scrylius shares his own experience of being rushed to the ER with chest tightness and dangerously high blood pressure. But here is the absolute most telling data point. He took a single week off from his corporate job, and his blood pressure returned to completely normal levels, literally overnight. His body wasn't broken, it was operating perfectly. It was sounding a massive alarm that his environment was toxic. Yet, like so many of us, he returned to the office anyway, enduring the gut knots, the 2 a.m. insomnia, and that constant exhausting low-level vigilance.
Which brings us to Section 3, alienation of the persona.
And this brilliantly illustrates the psychological pathogen driving all these intense physical symptoms. Scrylius points to the profound conflict between our true nature and our fabricated work identity. Our authentic self thrives on deep focus, autonomy, and natural rhythms. But to survive office politics, we have to invent an alienated persona. The modern workplace demands constant visibility, forced extroversion, and the endless suppression of our natural instincts. So the exhaustion we feel at 5 p.m. isn't necessarily from the physical labor. It's the monumental, invisible psychological effort of maintaining a fake identity for 8 hours a day. Scrylius notes that this dynamic uniquely punishes introverts and deep thinkers. The modern workplace fundamentally operates on an extrovert ideal, where the loudest voices get rewarded and solitary, focused work is often entirely marginalized.
Having to perform extroversion and fake enthusiasm daily leads to a profound kind of emotional dissociation. Basically, you aren't burned out because you lack a strong work ethic. You're exhausted from years of pretending to be someone else entirely.
Section 4. Scrubbing the human. Beyond that psychological toll, modern corporate and HR systems structurally strip workers of their individual humanity. Scrylis tells this wild story where, in one of his consulting roles, he was literally stripped of his name in internal systems and assigned employee number 107. He actually recounts an incident where he innocently wrote a colleague's real name, Robert, on a purchase order, only to be immediately called into an HR meeting for a protocol violation. We live in an era of algorithmic governance, guys. Automated systems are monitoring micro-movements, bathroom breaks, keystrokes, penalizing any deviations without a single shred of human context. You are literally reduced to a data point. He also points out a fascinating and pretty bleak double standard in corporate data privacy. When a disposable worker leaves a company, their personal information, their contributions, their decades of effort, it's all procedurally scrubbed from the digital record under the guise of data protection. It's what George Orwell would call the memory hole. They just become invisible. Meanwhile, the permanent executives have their names, their decisions, and their legacies historically preserved in the company's archives forever. To highlight how deep this structural erasure goes, Scrylius offers this highly provocative analogy. He compares corporate human resources to the guards in the show Squid Game. Think about it. They present themselves as friendly, helpful, and supportive, but their foundational, ultimate purpose is to protect the corporation, not the individual. This hidden dynamic is exactly what creates that constant, low-level vigilance workers carry around in their bodies, the unspoken awareness that any misstep could lead to immediate elimination.
Section 5. History of nervous exhaustion.
To truly wrap our heads around this, we need to look back and see how systems of control have historically masked systemic trauma as a personal failure of the worker. During the Industrial Revolution, factory workers were suffering mysterious, widespread physical breakdowns. The medical establishment at the time called it nervous exhaustion. And their grand prescription? Rest? Take a break? But they never once questioned or prescribed a change to the brutal factory conditions themselves. Today, we just rebranded it. We call it burnout. We prescribe meditation apps, weekends off, and better sleep routines. But treating burnout this way is simply returning a damaged tool back to the machine that broke it. The conditions remain totally unchallenged. So the crucial point in Scrylis's framework is this. Modern corporate resilience training functions as a trap, a total trap. It places the blame entirely on you, the individual. If you burn out, society tells you that you lack resilience, you have a weak mindset, or hey, you just didn't practice enough self-care. But as Scrylis argues so passionately, it's not your personal failing. The fundamental structure of the 40-hour, highly surveilled workweek is the true pathogen causing the illness.
Section 6. The breakthrough of the breakdown.
This brings us to the prognosis phase of today's explainer. What if we actually stop trying to suppress these symptoms? Scrylius frames physical collapse not as a breakdown, but as a necessary breakthrough, highlighting what he calls the accounting paradox. Now, what's really interesting about this concept is that he notes he can spend late nights writing scripts, editing video, and doing highly complex technical work for his own projects, and his nervous system remains completely calm. But answering a simple, single yes or no email for a corporate boss, that triggers an immediate fight or flight panic response. Why? Because the body inherently knows the difference between effort connected to autonomous meaning and effort wasted on abstract, disconnected spreadsheets for someone else's profit. This paradox builds to his absolute boldest conclusion. A paycheck is essentially a bribe. Financial dependency creates an underlying, persistent fear of not paying rent, fear of losing healthcare, and that fear shapes our behavior far more effectively than any micromanager ever could. It forces us to swallow words we should say, shrink ourselves into tiny boxes, and ultimately, it actively suppresses our natural intuition and our gut feelings. So, what is the solution presented here? It's a path back to biological alignment. First, we absolutely have to stop treating our anxiety and physical symptoms as personal failures. They are vital data points. Second, realize that the fake corporate persona is just a mask. It's a survival mechanism, not who you actually are. Third, and perhaps most importantly, trust your gut. Your enteric nervous system is a sentinel designed to protect you from a sick society. Finally, you must begin building digital autonomy, an independent income outside the corporate structure.
Autonomy in this framework isn't some financial luxury reserved for a lucky few. It is an absolute biological necessity to heal your nervous system.
Which leaves us with a final, profound question to ponder today. When that Sunday dread creeps in and your biological ledger starts flashing bright red, how are you going to respond? Are you going to numb the symptoms with another corporate resilience seminar, or will you finally stop ignoring the ledger and answer your body's desperate call for true autonomy? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I highly encourage you to keep questioning the structures around you. Catch you next time.
Have you ever felt that that very specific, just undeniable heaviness settle into your chest on a Sunday afternoon?
Oh, yeah, like clockwork.
Right. I mean, if you're listening to this right now and you're just navigating this bizarre modern economy we live in, you almost certainly know the exact sensation I'm talking about.
Oh, absolutely.
You could be sitting on your couch, maybe you're just reading a book or, I don't know, making a fresh cup of coffee.
Just minding your own business.
Exactly, just minding your business. And the sun is starting to get a little bit low in the sky. It's casting those long shadows across the living room. And suddenly, out of literally nowhere, it just hits you.
Yeah, that creeping dread.
Yes, this quiet, creeping weight, a tightness in the stomach, a really subtle shift in like how deeply you can actually breathe.
It's physical. It really is.
It is. And the question is, is it just normal, run-of-the-mill stress, the kind we are all told to just quietly accept as part of being a functioning adult?
Right, the whole welcome to the real world thing.
Yeah, exactly. Or, and this is what we're going to really explore today, is your biology actually staging a full-scale systemic rebellion against your daily life?
It is such a profound question, and one that completely reframes an experience that almost everyone has had.
Totally.
Because we tend to pathologize that Sunday heaviness, We assume there's something wrong with us for not being able to just seamlessly handle our schedule.
Like you're just not tough enough.
Exactly. Like we just need to be more resilient, or, I don't know, maybe do some more yoga.
Drink more green juice.
Right, yeah. But what if that feeling isn't a malfunction at all? What if it's actually a perfectly healthy organism, meaning your body responding to a fundamentally unhealthy, unnatural environment?
And see, that perspective just shifts everything, which is why we're embarking on this very targeted deep dive today.
Yeah, it's a big one.
We are looking at the psychosomatic and the psychological toll of the modern workplace, and we're doing it through the highly analytical lens of a YouTuber named Tom Scrylius.
Yeah, his work on this is fascinating.
It really is. He talks extensively about what we could call the anatomy of attrition.
That's a great term for it.
Right, the anatomy of attrition. It's basically this idea that modern labor extracts a devastating biological cost from us. And we have a whole stack of his video transcripts, his observations, his theories to go through.
And it's a framework that really requires us to look at this not just as a standard workplace issue.
Yeah, we're not talking about time management here.
No, not at all. Not how to get to inbox zero or like productivity hacks. We are looking at this as a biological, sociological, and historical phenomenon.
Which is huge.
Right. Scrylius presents this really compelling case that the human body acts as a sentinel.
A sentinel. I love that word.
Yeah, it's like a guard that is actively and sometimes violently trying to protect our fundamental humanity from a system that basically just wants to commodify it.
I mean, I just have this natural curiosity about how we even arrived here.
Yeah, how did this become normal?
Exactly.
Yeah.
How on earth have we culturally accepted chronic physical suffering as just the price of entry for participating in society?
It's wild when you step back and look at it.
Right. Like, why do we joke about hating Mondays on coffee mugs as if it's just a universal law of physics?
Like gravity.
Yeah, like gravity, rather than a symptom of a very specific modern disease.
Well, I think we joke about it because the alternative, actually admitting that our daily lives are biologically destructive, is terrifying.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's true.
Right. Because we've been conditioned for generations to believe that discomfort is simply the toll we pay for survival.
Just suck it up.
Exactly. But to understand the long-term damage, the sheer weight of that toll, we first have to look at how this accumulates over time.
We need to look at the weekly cycle.
Right, the weekly cycle. Because that chronology of dread, as Scrylius lays it out, it doesn't actually begin on Monday morning.
It doesn't.
No, it starts with the weekend.
Okay, so if the body is keeping this ledger of stress, when does the billing cycle actually start?
Well, Scrylius breaks down the timeline of the modern weekend in a way that is just painfully accurate.
Yeah, let's get into that.
So he describes Friday night as feeling like oxygen.
Oxygen. I mean, think about the implication of that specific word, oxygen.
It's heavy.
It is. Because if Friday evening is oxygen, it implies that for the previous 5 days, you've essentially been holding your breath, right? Like you're submerged underwater.
The contrast is just jarring, isn't it? Friday night is the moment the pressure valve finally releases.
Right.
But then we move into Saturday, and we really have to look closely at how Saturday is actually spent by most people.
Okay, yeah.
In a healthy paradigm, a day of rest would be spent in a state of elevated self-actualization.
Like doing hobbies or seeing friends.
Exactly. Hobbies, community, genuine leisure. But Skrylus points out that for the modern worker, Saturday is spent purely on recovery.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It is triage. It's sleeping in until 11 just to pay off this massive compounding sleep debt.
Right, because you've been running on fumes since Wednesday.
Exactly. It's doing all the mundane household chores, the laundry, the groceries, all the stuff that piled up because you simply didn't have the cognitive bandwidth or even the physical energy to do them from Monday to Friday.
So you aren't thriving on Saturday.
No, you are rehabilitating.
You're just doing damage control so the house doesn't literally fall apart.
That's exactly what it is.
And then we get to Sunday.
Right, Sunday.
Now, ostensibly the weekend was fine, right? Technically nothing bad happened.
Right, no one yelled at you.
Nobody yelled, no deadlines are missed. He had some time off. But then we hit what Skrylus calls the Sunday afternoon dread.
Or what some people culturally refer to as the Sunday funeral feeling.
The Sunday funeral. That is so bleak, but so real.
It is.
And it hits like clockwork, exactly around 3:00 or 4:00 p.m.
Your sun starts to dip and the entire mood of the day just collapses.
Yeah. This specific moment, Sunday at 3:00 p.m., this is where the biological response becomes undeniably clear, isn't it? And it separates the mind from the body.
It does, because your conscious mind might be rationalizing. It's sitting there saying, hey, I'm safe, I'm in my living room, I'm watching a movie, I have a whole evening left.
Right, you're trying to talk yourself out of it.
Exactly. But your enteric nervous system, which is the massive network of neurons in your gut, often called the second brain, it catches up with the calendar.
That it knows.
It processes time differently. It realizes that what Skrylus terms the same hell pit is less than 18 hours away.
Okay, let's pause right there. Because I want to make sure we aren't just, using metaphors for the listeners.
Right, good point.
When we say the gut realizes something, we are talking about entirely physiological shifts.
Right? Completely.
Like the dread isn't just a passing anxious thought. It's a physical heaviness. It's this low-grade existential crisis that literally hijacks your nervous system and effectively ruins the remaining hours of your supposedly free time.
Yeah, from 3:00 p.m. on Sunday, the clock is just ticking down.
It's entirely physiological?
It is. The enteric nervous system operates completely independently of conscious thought.
Right, really?
Yes. I mean, it regulates your digestion, sure, but it is also deeply, deeply tied to your fight or flight response.
Wow.
So when it senses an impending threat, which in this case is the return to a high-vigilance work environment, it begins to actually alter your biology.
So it's prepping you for danger.
Exactly. Digestion slows down. Cortisol levels begin this premature, slow climb. And this builds relentlessly through Sunday night.
Which brings us to Monday morning, where the systemic shock truly registers.
Yeah, Monday morning.
Skrylus vividly describes this as the brain-on-fire panic.
That is such an intense phrase.
It is. The alarm goes off, and he specifies 5:47 a.m., which, if you think about human evolution, is a violently unnatural time for the body to be jolted out of a deep sleep cycle by a blaring digital siren.
Oh, it's a complete shock to the system.
Right. And before the person even moves, before they even throw off the covers, the mental math begins.
A countdown.
Yeah. 4 more days. 3 more days.
You wake up instantly in a state of deficit.
Exactly.
You aren't lying in bed contemplating the meaning of your work or like how you're going to creatively solve a fascinating problem today.
Definitely not.
You are simply calculating the hours until you are allowed to stop doing it.
You're surviving the week, you're not living it.
Right. And the physical symptoms he notes in the source material are incredibly severe.
Yeah, let's get into those.
We aren't just talking about being a little sleepy on a Monday. He talks about a knot in the stomach that feels as hard as a rock.
A literal knot.
Yes. He describes a tightness spreading right across the chest. He even mentions this bizarre pressure in the fingertips.
I read that. Pressure in the fingertips, that's so specific.
It is. And he talks about shallow breathing, like the kind of hyperventilation that forces a grown, educated adult to hide in a sterile office bathroom just to do breathing exercises.
Just to regulate their nervous system enough to walk back out to their cubicle.
Exactly.
That pressure in the fingertips, though, you were saying earlier, that's particularly revealing.
Oh, yeah. That is a classic physiological response to adrenaline.
Okay, how so?
Well, when the body perceives a threat, it redirects blood flow away from the extremities, like your fingertips, and toward the major muscle groups and vital organs.
Oh, wow. So you can run or fight.
Exactly. Your vascular system is literally chemically preparing you for a physical fight or to flee from a predator.
You're in an office.
Right. Because you are sitting in a chair staring at a screen, that physical energy has nowhere to go.
So it just pulls his tension.
Exactly. It just pulls his tension.
He also shares that story about his wife, right?
Hmm.
She works as a social worker.
Yes, and that's a crucial example.
Because she genuinely believes in her work, right? It has real, undeniable societal value.
It's not a useless job at all.
Right. Yet the physical toll on her is identical. Scrilia says that every single evening, she lies on a rubber ball on the living room floor, just trying to work out these massive muscle knots in her neck and shoulders that never, ever fully release.
She is absorbing the trauma of her environment directly into her musculature.
Okay, but wait, I have to push back here. I really need to challenge this premise for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
Because I can hear the counter-argument forming in the minds of a lot of our listeners, hardworking people.
I know exactly where you're going with this.
Right, like, our grandparents worked in coal mines, they worked in steel mills.
They did.
They lost fingers in machinery, they breathed in toxic dust. So are we really saying that sitting in a Herman Miller chair under fluorescent lights, getting annoyed by a Microsoft Teams meeting, is biologically the same thing?
It sounds absurd when you put it like that.
It does. Isn't calling a corporate job trauma just a profound lack of modern resilience? I mean, how can a gut knot over an email be biologically equivalent to actual physical danger?
Yeah.
Like putting your hand on a hot stove.
It is a really vital distinction to make, and I'm glad you brought it up, because it brings us to the core of how the human nervous system actually evolved.
Okay, break that down for us.
You are absolutely right that a coal mine presents acute, immediate physical danger.
Right, a cave-in will kill you instantly.
Yes. But the human body is actually surprisingly well adapted to acute stress.
Really?
Yes. If a predator chases you, your cortisol spikes, you run, you survive, and then your nervous system completely downregulates back to a baseline of safety.
The stress cycle completes itself.
Exactly. The cycle is completed.
You run away from the tiger, you survive, and then you just go back to picking berries.
Precisely. What the modern office worker experiences is not acute physical danger, but chronic psychological subjugation.
Chronic subjugation.
Yes, it is a state of perpetual low-grade hypervigilance. And here's the key. The body cannot differentiate between the biological mechanisms of a physical threat and a social or psychological threat.
Oh, wow.
So when your boss sends a vague, passive-aggressive email at 4:55 p.m. on a Friday,
Which is the worst, by the way.
it's the worst. Your amygdala, the fear center of the brain, processes that as a threat to your social standing, your livelihood, your ability to provide food and shelter for yourself.
So the threat is abstract, but the biological response is totally primitive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because the threat is abstract, the stress cycle never completes.
Because you can't punch your computer.
Right. You can't punch the screen. You can't run away from the office building.
You get fired.
You have to sit there completely still and just suppress the adrenaline.
Wow.
And in biology, we call the long-term wear and tear of this chronic stress allostatic load.
Allostatic load.
Yes. The constant dripping of cortisol and adrenaline degrades the cardiovascular system, the immune system, and the digestive tract.
So it's a different kind of damage.
Exactly. A coal miner suffers catastrophic physical wear, but a modern knowledge worker suffers catastrophic neurological and systemic wear.
Which is invisible.
It's invisible until it isn't. And this is what Scrilius means by the biological ledger.
The body keeping score.
Yes. Your conscious mind is incredibly adept at rationalizing. It will tell you, hey, I need to endure this because I have a mortgage, or, everyone else is doing it, so I should too.
Right. We all just grin and bear it.
But the body is an honest accountant. It cannot be tricked.
It keeps the ledger.
It keeps the ledger, and it tracks the true cost of operating in a high-vigilance, low-autonomy environment.
The body keeps the score. Okay, so what happens when you ignore the accountant?
Nothing good.
Right. What happens when the conscious mind just keeps overriding the body's warning signals year after year? Because you can only absorb that allostatic load for so long before the internal architecture starts to crack.
It leads to inevitable escalation.
Escalation.
Yeah.
And
The body starts with whispers. The Sunday dread, the tight shoulders, the mild insomnia. But if you ignore the whispers, the body has to turn up the volume.
it has to force you to listen.
Exactly. It has to escalate the situation to force you to pay attention. It starts shouting.
Which brings us to a frankly terrifying moment in Skrylus' own life that he talks about in the source material.
Yes, the ER visit.
The breakthrough of the breakdown. At just 30 years old, he experienced chest pains so severe, so intense, that he genuinely thought he was dying.
And 30 is so young.
So young. He's young, presumably otherwise healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to the emergency room, and after all the EKGs and the blood tests, they tell him what it is.
Severe stress-induced high blood pressure.
His cardiovascular system was physically buckling under the weight of his job.
And his psychological reaction to this diagnosis in the ER is fascinating, don't you think?
Oh, it really is. Because he wasn't relieved that it wasn't a fatal heart attack.
No, he was angry.
He was furious.
Yeah.
Because he realized what he had traded.
Yeah.
He had jeopardized his actual biological life, his existence on this planet, for a job he openly admits he didn't even like.
For bosses and systems he didn't even respect.
Exactly. He was risking a stroke simply because he was playing the role of the obedient, compliant worker.
He followed the societal script so perfectly it almost put him in the ground.
And it forces us to really examine how we view these medical crises, doesn't it? Because there is a tragic irony in what happened next.
It really is. So he took a week off work to recover, right?
Yeah.
And his blood pressure completely normalized.
1 week away from the toxic environment, and the machine just resets itself.
Because his body wasn't malfunctioning in the first place.
Wait, say that again?
The high blood pressure wasn't a defect in his personal biology. His body was functioning perfectly.
Oh, wow.
It was accurately reflecting a toxic environment. The alarm system was working exactly as it should.
So he wasn't broken. The job was breaking him.
Exactly. And yet, what did he do after that week of rest?
I go right back to the office.
He went right back. As he puts it, he returned because not returning feels more dangerous.
That is so wild to me.
Right. The psychological fear of losing the paycheck, of stepping outside the societal norm, of losing his identity as a productive citizen was actually more terrifying to his conscious mind than the physical, measurable threat of cardiovascular collapse.
That is just bleak.
It is bleak.
And it's bleak because it's so incredibly common. I mean, we all know people who have had stress-induced health scares and just gone right back to the grindstone.
Oh, definitely.
But it also makes me think about how we frame this culturally. Like, we tend to think of burnout as a uniquely modern 21st century problem, don't we?
We do. We blame it on smartphones.
Yeah, smartphones, Slack notifications, the 24/7 news cycle.
Right.
But the biological rebellion against unnatural labor isn't new, is it?
Not at all. The roots of this go straight back to the Industrial Revolution.
Okay, let's unpack that.
So before industrialization, human labor was largely agrarian and task-oriented.
Right, farming.
Yeah, you worked intensely during the harvest and you rested during the winter. Your labor was tied to the sun, the seasons, and the weather.
It was natural.
Exactly, but the factory system introduced something entirely new. Clock time.
Ah, the subjugation of the human body to the rhythm of the machine.
Yes. When humans were first forced off agricultural rhythms and herded into these enclosed factories to perform repetitive tasks for, 12 hours a day, their bodies rebelled massively.
Obviously.
And it wasn't just the dangerous machinery that caused issues, it was the psychological shock of the environment.
Right.
Factory workers, particularly in the Victorian era, began exhibiting fainting spells, severe stomach pain, chronic fatigue, and physical tremors that had no underlying viral or bacterial cause.
And what did the medical establishment of the time call this phenomenon?
They diagnosed it as nervous exhaustion.
Nervous exhaustion.
Or sometimes neurasthenia.
It sounds almost quaint now, like a Victorian novel. But it was a massive epidemiological crisis.
It really was. And the key insight here is how the medical and corporate establishments treated it.
Oh, I can't wait for this.
So doctors at the time prescribed rest. They invented the rest cure.
The rest cure.
Yeah. They told the workers to go home, lie down in a dark room, and drink milk.
Just drink milk and you'll be fine.
Right. But what they never did, what they never once prescribed, was changing the brutal, inhuman factory conditions that were causing the nervous exhaustion in the first place.
Unbelievable.
The environment was considered fixed, an immovable law of economics. The worker was the one who needed to be fixed.
Oh, wow. We do the exact same thing today, don't we? Just with better branding.
We absolutely do. We treat modern burnout with blue light filters on our screens.
Right.
We take magnesium supplements. We do morning cold plunges.
Oh, the cold plunges.
Yes. We download corporate-sponsored meditation apps that remind us to take a deep breath between back-to-back Zoom calls.
It's all on the individual.
Exactly. We treat the individual as if they are the problem. We tell them they just lack resilience. We ignore the source entirely.
I really want to explore that word resilience.
It's a loaded word.
It is. Because it sounds like treating burnout with corporate resilience training or mindfulness apps is basically just taping up a damaged cog and throwing it right back into the machine that crushed it in the first place.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right. Like the system creates the wound, the total exhaustion, the high blood pressure, and then an entirely new system, the multi-billion-dollar wellness industry, monetizes the bandage.
It's a brilliant, insidious loop.
We are told to meditate so we can be more productive for the people who are making us sick.
Yes, taping up the cog to ensure the machine keeps running without ever having to actually change the machine itself.
Wow.
The system generates the illness, and the economy actually grows by selling you the cure.
That is so dark.
It is. And this is why a physical collapse, an ER visit like Spryly has had, shouldn't be viewed as a failure of effort.
Right. It's not a weakness.
It shouldn't be viewed as a lack of resilience. It is the body's ultimate necessary protest.
The breakthrough of the breakdown.
Yes. When the mind refuses to stop, the body pulls the emergency brake. It's a vital breakthrough.
A breakthrough demanding what, though?
Demanding total life alignment.
Okay.
Demanding that you stop taping yourself together to serve a machine that is destroying you. The breakdown is the body saying, I will no longer participate in this illusion. I am shutting down.
So the physical breakdown is just the visible part.
Yes.
It's the ER visit, the blood pressure cuff, the rubber ball on the living room floor. But Scrylius argues that this physical toll is actually just the outer manifestation, the symptom of a deeper psychological violence that is occurring every single day.
The internal toll.
Right. He calls it the severing of the self.
Yes, that part of his analysis is so powerful.
Let's dig into that, because I think this explains why modern work feels so deeply unnatural for so many of you listening.
He refers to this as the alienation of the persona.
The alienation of the persona.
Right. This is the daily emotional and spiritual cost of performing a fabricated identity.
Faking it.
Faking it. Scrylius describes this visceral, almost out-of-body experience of walking into his office building. The moment he steps through the revolving doors, he feels his real self disappear.
Wow.
It retreats to a quieter, hidden place deep inside and is instantly replaced by the version of himself that works there, the professional avatar.
A character.
Exactly, the character.
The one who uses words like synergy and bandwidth.
Yes.
The one who smiles at the bad jokes. The one who pretends to care deeply about the quarterly revenue report for a company he doesn't even own.
And he notes how specific and devastating this toll is on introverts in particular.
Oh, interesting. Why introverts?
Well, he references Susan Cain's groundbreaking work on the extrovert ideal.
Oh, I've read her stuff. It's great.
It is. And for context, Cain argues that in the 20th century, we moved from a culture of character where people were valued for quiet integrity and hard work to a culture of personality.
Right, where charisma, magnetism, and extroversion became the ultimate markers of success.
Exactly. Modern corporate workplaces are entirely built around this extrovert ideal.
So they demand that you fake extroversion constantly just to be seen as competent.
The demands are relentless, and they're structural.
Give us some examples.
It's smiling enthusiastically at forced networking events when your nervous system desperately needs quiet.
Oh, the forced happy hours.
Yes. It's the intense pressure to speak up prematurely in a brainstorming meeting, because the corporate culture rewards the first person to speak, the loudest voice in the room, not the person who takes time to think deeply and formulate the best, most nuanced idea.
Right, it's all about optics.
It's the architecture of the open plan office, too.
Oh, I hate open plan offices.
Everyone does, because they were supposedly designed for collaboration, but actually they just demand constant performative availability. You are always on stage.
And if you're an introvert, or honestly just someone who values deep, uninterrupted focus, doing this for 8 to 10 hours a day creates a massive identity crisis.
That's exhausting.
Think about the psychological friction of that.
Yeah.
And what's really twisted, and this is what got me, is that when you achieve success, when you get the promotion, the bonus, the praise from your manager by pretending to be someone else, it completely destroys your self-esteem.
It creates a devastating paradox of success.
Yes.
You win the game, but the victory feels incredibly hollow because the character is the one being rewarded.
The avatar gets the raise, not you.
Exactly. The real you, the authentic self that was hiding in the background, feels utterly worthless and invisible. You begin to internalize the idea that your true natural state isn't enough, that it must be actively suppressed in order to survive in society.
And because these relationships are based on fake personas, it leads to what he calls the ghost effect.
The ghost effect, yes.
This really struck me, this concept of hollow exhaustion.
The ghost effect perfectly illustrates the transactional, superficial nature of an environment that demands this performance.
Okay, explain that for the listeners.
So think about your workplace relationships. For the most part, they are built on the shared trauma of surviving the 9-to-5.
Right, you bond over the bad coffee in the break room, the difficult boss, the impossible deadlines.
Yeah. It feels like camaraderie. It feels real in the moment.
Sure.
But the moment someone is fired or they resign, what happens?
They vanish.
Exactly.
They are procedurally and socially discarded by the ecosystem immediately. Their Slack account is deactivated, their email bounces back, and by Tuesday, people just stop talking about them.
Hers chilling.
It really is. It's like they died, but they just went to work for a competitor across town.
It is chilling, and it highlights the total lack of genuine human connection, which contributes to this profound sense of meaninglessness.
Because it wasn't real.
Right. The nervous system recognizes that these bonds were conditional, based entirely on proximity and shared subjugation.
Oh.
And Scrylis brings in the late anthropologist David Graeber's concept of bullshit jobs.
I love Graeber's work.
It's so relevant. Graeber defined a bullshit job as a form of paid employment that is so completely pointless, unnecessary, or pernicious that even the employee cannot justify its existence.
Right. So much of modern labor is just updating a spreadsheet to feed into another spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Which generates a report that a middle manager pretends to read before a meeting that didn't even need to happen.
Precisely. And your biology, your nervous system, is acutely aware of this futility.
It knows it's pointless.
It knows when your effort does not connect to a real, tangible human outcome.
Okay, give me an example of what the biology does understand.
Well, when a human being is building a house or healing a wound or growing food, the effort makes sense to the biology. There is a clear cause and effect.
I exert energy, I secure shelter.
Exactly. But when you are synergizing cross-platform metrics to optimize stakeholder engagement, the nervous system cannot locate the meaning.
It sees abstract stress.
Right. It cannot see how this ensures survival.
I want to explore the physical manifestation of that meaninglessness. Because let me pose a question about sleep here, because I think this is a huge part of the puzzle for a lot of people.
Okay. Sure.
We sleep to recover physical energy, right? If you chop wood all day or hike a mountain, you're physically exhausted.
Your muscles are tired.
Right. You sleep, your muscles repair tissue, you wake up refreshed.
Yeah.
But Scrylius talks about this specific modern kind of exhaustion that sleep absolutely cannot fix.
Yes, the deep exhaustion.
He says you can sleep for 10 hours on a Saturday night and wake up just as drained. Why doesn't the biological reset button work here?
Because you are trying to use a physical solution for a psychological and emotional deficit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
REM sleep flushes adenosine from the brain, it repairs muscle tissue, it consolidates memory, but it does not resolve the cognitive friction of identity fragmentation.
The fake persona.
Exactly. When we talk about emotional labor, which
Yeah.
is a term coined by sociologist Arlie Hochschild, we are talking about the immense effort required to manage your own feelings, to fulfill the emotional requirements of a job.
It's the energy required to hold the mask in place all day.
Exactly. You are managing a massive ongoing energy deficit by constantly suppressing your natural state.
Your brain is working overtime.
Yes. The prefrontal cortex is working overtime to filter your reactions, to force a smile, to monitor your tone, the energy required to do that for 8 hours is astronomical.
So it's a completely different battery.
It drains a completely different battery, your emotional and spiritual reserves. And the tragedy, the real tragedy here, is the psychological spillover.
The spillover into your real life.
Yes.
The life you were supposedly doing all this work to support in the first place.
Exactly, because by the time you navigate the commute and get home at 6:00 or 7:00 p.m., that emotional battery is at absolute zero.
There's nothing left.
You have no authentic self left for your family, your partner, your children. You are physically present at the dinner table, but you are emotionally vacant. You have nothing left to give. The corporate system extracts your best, most vibrant energy during the day, and your loved ones get the scraps.
That hits incredibly hard. Because while you are internally dividing yourself to survive, draining that battery to zero, the corporate structure itself is externally doing something equally violent.
Oh, yes.
It isn't just ignoring your humanity, it is actively erasing it.
Systematic.
It is reducing you to a mere data point. And Scrylius calls this section of his analysis scrubbing the human.
This is the anatomy of institutional erasure.
Yeah.
And Scrylius shares a highly specific, almost dystopian story from his own life to illustrate this.
Right, the purchase order story.
Yeah. So he was filling out an internal purchase order system, just ordering some standard office supplies. A very mundane task.
Right.
And in the notes field of the software, he typed 5 simple words. This order is for Robert.
Right. Just a first name. This order is for Robert. So the guy working at the front desk or the mailroom knows who gets the pens and the printer toner when the box actually arrives.
It's just a tiny piece of human friction.
A completely human detail.
Exactly. But within 24 hours, human resources flagged the order.
HR got involved over some pens.
They called him in and told him it was a GDPR violation.
Now, for context for our listeners, GDPR is the General Data Protection Regulation in Europe, right?
Right.
Which was designed to stop massive tech companies from harvesting and exploiting citizens' private data.
But HR weaponized this regulation in the workplace.
How so?
They told him that Robert, as a human name, was not allowed to exist in that notes field. He was not allowed to be recorded in the internal supply system.
He literally wasn't allowed to exist as a person in the machinery of the company.
No.
The system rejected a human name as a compliance error.
Yes, and Scrylius contrasts this with his own identity in the company.
Right, because he's a consultant.
He works as a consultant, moving from place to place, so his experience of this is very sharp. In this particular corporate system, he isn't Tom. He is known simply as number 107.
Number 107.
He logs in with it. He is referenced by it in the software. He is, quite literally, a number.
And this leads to the ultimate erasure, doesn't it?
It does. When his contract ends, when number 107 moves on to another client, the system executes what Scrylius, referencing George Orwell's 1984, calls the memory hole.
The memory hole.
Every trace of his personal information, his specific contributions, his actual physical and digital presence in that company is procedurally scrubbed from the servers.
Wiped clean.
He is completely deleted from the history of that organization.
It's like he was never there.
Exact.
The ghost effect made literal. But here's the double standard that really exposes the architecture of all this, I think. Because this data scrubbing, this obsession with privacy and erasure, it doesn't apply to everyone, does it?
No, it certainly does not. And this is where the class divide in corporate history becomes glaring.
Okay, tell us about that.
The CEOs, the founders, the powerful politicians, the venture capitalists, they get to waive these privacy rules.
Oh, of course they do.
Their legacies are meticulously archived. They get Wikipedia pages. Every strategic decision they make, every memo they write is documented and preserved for history in biographies and business school case studies.
So they are allowed to exist permanently.
They leave a footprint on the world.
Meanwhile, the ordinary worker vanishes without a trace.
Yes.
Scrylius talks about his father, right?
Mm-hmm.
An engineer who worked his whole life solving complex, real-world problems for companies.
Yes, a very skilled man.
And when his father died, Scrylius realized he left no searchable trace of his professional existence.
None.
There is no archive of his life's work. The system claims it is protecting workers' data by doing this GDPR scrubbing, but in reality, it is making them historically insignificant.
That is the tragic reality of it.
It really is. This makes me think of something, an analogy for how HR functions in these environments.
Okay, let's hear it.
Human resources acts a lot like the friendly guards in that show, Squid Game.
Oh, wow. Okay, I see where you're going.
right? They wear bright colors, they present as incredibly helpful, they organize the mandatory pizza parties and hand out complimentary water bottles.
We're here for you.
Exactly. But their real job, their only actual function, is to enforce the rules of the system with absolute ruthlessness and mitigate legal risk for the corporation.
That is precisely what they do.
We are told this data scrubbing, this compliance, is for our protection. But is it really just about making us completely seamlessly replaceable, like a standardized part in an engine?
That is the exact function of it. It is institutional dehumanization.
Institutional dehumanization.
Yes. When you are reduced to a metric, to number 1 of 7, the system is communicating very clearly that your individual humanity, your quirks, your specific way of thinking, your history, your personality is a liability.
They don't want it.
The system doesn't want a human. It wants a standardized, interchangeable cog.
And if a cog breaks?
You throw it away and slot in a new one without interrupting the assembly line.
Wow.
And this creates a state of low-level, constant vigilance in the worker.
Because you can be deleted at any moment, and no one will even remember you were there.
You are constantly aware that you are monitored, measured, and easily replaced. And this keeps workers in a state of perpetual anxiety.
And anxious workers.
As Scrylis acutely points out, anxious workers are obedient workers. They don't take risks. They don't demand better conditions. They don't rebel against the absurdity of bullshit jobs.
They just keep their heads down.
They grip their paychecks tighter. They suppress their true selves even further. And they try to blend in with the machinery.
Okay, so let's shift gears for a minute and look at the inverse of all this.
Sure.
Because if the corporate system, the fake persona, the constant threat of erasure, the bullshit jobs, if all of this causes the body to rebel, to stage this biological protest with gut knots and high blood pressure, what does it actually look like when the body feels safe?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. Because Scryli has actually found the answer to this, and it's hidden in a bizarre paradox about hard work. And I think it proves that we aren't just lazy.
Yes, the accounting paradox.
The accounting paradox. Let's talk about that.
This is a crucial piece of the puzzle because it completely destroys the narrative that burnout is caused by simply working too hard.
Right.
So Scrylius had a revelation while doing the bookkeeping for his own independent side business. He was submitting reports to the Swedish tax agency, Skatteverket.
Okay.
Now, he openly admits he hates accounting.
Who doesn't?
Right. It's complex, it's highly tedious, it requires intense focus, and the stakes are incredibly high.
Because if he makes a mistake...
he could face a massive financial fine or a government audit.
So the stakes are very real. It's not a fake spreadsheet for a middle manager. It's the government.
Exactly. Yet, while doing this highly complex, high-stakes, tedious work for hours on end, he noticed something profound.
What was it?
A total absence of physical panic. Yes, his chest wasn't tight. His stomach wasn't in a knot. His breathing was normal. His heart rate was steady.
Contrast that with his 9-to-5 job.
The contrast is mind-blowing.
Because he mentions that at his corporate consulting gig, he could get a basic email from his boss, a simple question requiring a simple yes or no answer.
Right, an incredibly easy task that takes 10 seconds to physically execute.
And yet, the moment that email pings in his inbox, it triggers an immediate stress response.
Immediate.
His gut clenches, his heart rate spikes. He feels this inner conflict about how to craft the quote-unquote perfect professional reply to manage his boss's perception.
Which leads us to the core thesis of his entire argument. Burnout is not an effort problem, it is an alignment problem.
Let's pause and really emphasize that for you listening, because it goes against everything the productivity gurus tell us. Burnout is not about working too hard.
No, it isn't. Doing complex, grueling, even boring tasks for your own autonomous project brings a physiological calm.
Why?
Because you are the author of the action. The effort aligns with your own goals, your own values, and your own survival. You are in control of the ledger.
Right.
But doing simple, easy tasks in a system of subjugation where your actions are coerced, where you are performing a fake persona, where you are under constant surveillance, triggers the fight or flight response.
So it all comes down to trusting the gut, literally the biological gut.
Literally. Let's look deeper at the science of the gut feeling for a second. We touched on the enteric nervous system earlier, but it's worth expanding on.
Yeah, please do.
The human gut contains over 500 million neurons.
500 million.
Yes. It produces about 95% of the body's serotonin. It is, functionally, a second brain. And it processes threats entirely independently of your conscious, rational thought.
Okay, how does that work with the brain?
Well, the vagus nerve, which connects the gut to the brain, sends 80% of its signals bottom up.
Bottom up.
Meaning your gut is telling your brain how to feel, not the other way around. It is a primal survival tool.
It's the animal part of us that knows when a predator's in the room. Even if the predator is wearing a suit, speaking in jargon, and offering a 401k match.
That is a perfect way to frame it. The subconscious brain is highly accurate. It is acting as a radar system against what is fundamentally a sick society.
It knows.
It knows when you are misaligned. It knows when you're in a state of subjugation long before your conscious mind can invent a rationalization to make you stay.
Like the mortgage or the status.
Right. It signals danger through tension, through digestive issues, through that deep, hollow dread.
So what does this all mean for the listener? I mean, we have been taught our entire lives that if work feels hard, if we are exhausted, if we hate Mondays, we just need to grind harder.
The hustle culture.
Yes, the hustle culture.
Yeah.
We need to push through, take a cold shower, practice resilience, read another book on time management.
It's endless.
But what we are concluding here is that the gut knot, the Sunday dread, the chest pain, these aren't weaknesses to be conquered. They're actually a compass pointing us toward autonomy.
That is the ultimate takeaway from Scrylis's Anatomy of Attrition. Autonomy is not merely a financial goal.
It's not just a perk.
It's not just a nice career perk you get when you finally reach a certain level of senior management. Autonomy is a strict biological necessity.
The biological necessity.
Yes. Your nervous system is hardwired to require it for baseline health. The body will only truly relax, the biological ledger will only balance when it knows its time, its energy, and its survival are not completely owned, dictated, and scrubbed by someone else.
So let's synthesize this massive paradigm shift. If you are listening to this right now and you feel that Sunday dread creeping in this weekend.
Or if you're feeling it right now.
Right.
Yeah.
If you have those permanently tight shoulders, if your stomach is constantly in knots during the workday, you need to understand something fundamental.
Yes.
Your body is not a broken machine failing to meet corporate productivity metrics. It is not malfunctioning.
Quite the opposite. It is a highly tuned sentinel.
The sentinel.
It is actively, desperately trying to protect your humanity from an unnatural, high-vigilance environment that wants to reduce you to number 107.
Those physical symptoms are valid data points.
Very valid.
They are proof that you haven't been completely assimilated into the machine. They are not signs of weakness. They are signs that the real, authentic you is still in there, still alive, and actively resisting the erasure.
The breakthrough is realizing that you don't need to fix yourself to fit the system.
You don't.
You don't need another wellness app to tape up the cog. You need to start listening to the sentinel.
And so we leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your week.
It's a big one.
Next time you feel that deep, hollow exhaustion settle into your bones after a day of just sitting completely still at a desk looking at a glowing rectangle, ask yourself this.
Yeah.
Are you tired because you actually did so much today? Or are you exhausted because you just spent 8 continuous hours aggressively preventing yourself from being who you actually are?
It's a question that changes everything once you dare to ask it.
It really is. So next Sunday at 3:00, when that heaviness starts to creep into your chest, maybe don't try to ignore it or drown it out. Maybe for the first time, just listen to what it's trying to tell you.